Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this quarter's diabetes class. I'm Brock Rebels,
And I'm Carly Cornelius.
and we are in our last year of pharmacy school at South University. And today we're going to talk with y'all a little bit about cooking with diabetes.
So, what is your recommended carbohydrate intake on a low carb diet? Your recommended daily intake of carbohydrates is about 130 grams of carbs per day. This averages out to be about 43 grams per meal if you eat 3 meals a day. Participating in a low carb diet has shown a benefit in weight loss. It can improve your blood sugar control. It decreases triglyceride levels, which is like the fat in your body, and it increases HDL levels, which is like your good cholesterol. So, how do you interpret an ingredient label? When you're cooking at home, you always want to make sure that you're adding up the total amount of carbs that you use from each ingredient. On a nutrition label, the main two things you'd like to focus on is the serving size, which is at number 1, and the total carbohydrates, which is at number 3. Always remember to focus on the total carbs and not the net carbs. And that if you use double an ingredient, so if you use 2 cups instead of 1 cup, make sure you double the amount of total carbohydrates so you're getting the right calculation.
All right, so how do you find the total amount of carbs in a home cooked meal that you make at home? So you're going to take the amount of carbs from the nutrition label for every ingredient that you used to make this dish. So say I have an example here. If you use 2 cups of milk at 12 grams of carbs per serving, that's 24 grams of carbs. Now that's not for the whole dish. That's just for one ingredient that you used to make the recipe. So you need to just create a list, and it's easy to just go down either right beside the recipe or just make a separate carb sheet for every dish and just go through and put the amount of carbs and the totals. And then what you're going to do at the end is you're going to divide the total number of carbs that you get when you add all ingredients, the carbohydrates from every ingredient, and you're just going to divide that by the number of servings. So I have a picture here of this casserole dish, and it's in a square container. So you can just divvy up the amount, just draw your lines in there and divvy up the amount of servings, and that will give you the amount of carbs that is in each serving if you just divide the total number of carbs by the total number of servings that you get when you cut the dish. When you're cooking meals at home or trying to find the carbohydrates and things, there's a lot of great tools and apps that you can use to find these. 2 of them that are really good for restaurants and cooking at home is going to be Calorie King and MyFitnessPal. They should just have a search bar, and you should be able to look up, whatever it is. Say it's a grilled chicken sandwich from Chick-fil-A. You should just be able to type it up there in the search bar, and it should give you drop-down options to select maybe if you got fries with that or a drink, and you can find the total carbohydrates in there. Another great website is the American Diabetes Association. They have most ingredients that you'll use on a regular basis within their database, and you can just look it up. Or honestly, possibly the easiest thing to do is just type in your search bar on Google, say carbs per sweet potato or carbs per banana, and it'll give you a roundabout estimate it'll say medium banana, large banana. Same with potatoes. Most everything you'll use, or if you're using a cup, say a quarter cup of flour, it'll have it, and it should just pop up right when you search on Google. So probably my favorite thing to use is Google, but if you're a person that wants to enter in your recipes and break down by recipe, I believe Calorie King and MyFitnessPal both have an option where you can make a detailed list on there. All right. Everybody has that container full of old index cards that has grandma's recipes written down on them, or maybe you have a cookbook or something like that. But this is just a quick slide to show you kind of how to get the carbohydrates from that. So I have the breakdown over beside the index card there of every ingredient that she has. And honestly, what I did with this is I just did a quick Google search on all of them and found the nutrition labels. But when you gather your ingredients, you'll have the nutrition labels there for you. So it'll be easy. And just like I've typed this in here, you can write this down on a piece of paper and stick it to, if you want to use a piece of tape, and stick it to the recipe, just so you know your carbs that are on there. And every time you do it, you don't have to recalculate. But you just go in and like I have here, look up the 2 cups. So that's one serving is probably 1 cup, and then you'll just double it, just like I have in this breakdown. And down here at the bottom, I have the total grams of carbs, which would be 312, and just say you got 8 servings out of it. And like I said with the dish earlier, even with macaroni, you can make an approximate estimate to get the 8 servings out of there, and it'll give you the amount of servings, the amount of carbs per serving. And just a few tips to stay accurate while you're counting carbs in these recipes. You can pick up a food scale for literally next to nothing on Amazon. Well, I say next to nothing, but it ends up being a great tool that's not that expensive, that'll help you get way more accurate when you're measuring these things out. If you have a recipe and it's calling for like 18 grams of certain or 28 grams of a certain ingredient, it's easy to just zero the scale out with whatever you're measuring in and then just put it in there, and it'll help you get far more accurate readings of carbohydrates in your recipes than if you were to just, eyeball it or something like that. I have another tip down here is using a butter knife to scrape the top off the cups when you're measuring flour. That sometimes grandma's old recipe may call for a heaping cup of flour, but do you really know how many grams of carbs are in that? No. Maybe you want to do a cup and a half just so you can track your carbs, but just if you'll scrape that off, it'll end up giving you a more accurate reading when you're counting your carbohydrates.
So how do you shop on a low carb diet? You want to look for sugar-free and keto-friendly ingredients as much as possible. Always remember to look at the nutrition facts, even if they are sugar-free or keto-friendly, because they could still be high in carbs. These right here are just a few examples of some things you'd like to look for. Personally, I've had the Nature's Own keto bread. I eat the honey wheat kind, and it's my personal favorite. I eat it just about every single day. I've also had the Log Cabin sugar-free syrup, and it's a great substitute for the regular syrup. There's also a few other options, and just remember, like I said, to always look at the nutrition facts, and however much you eat, make sure to multiply it by the serving size that you have. One thing that can really benefit you on a low carb diet is meal planning. Meal planning is whenever you make a chart or a listed out the meals that you plan to eat during the week. You can do breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks if you are a snacker. And there are many benefits to this because it can save you time on meal preparation about thinking of what are you going to eat during the week. It can save you money because you are already planning on what ingredients you need, so you know what you need to get whenever you go to the store. It can build very healthy eating habits because if you're eating low carb meals, you can kind of calculate ahead of time what amount of carbs you're going to eat during the week. And it can also allow your family to get involved because you can kind of talk about what do y'all want to eat this week, and it's just very beneficial.
Another great tool to utilize if you're trying to eat a low carb diet and stay on track with tracking your carbs and staying under your goals every day is to use meal prepping. So basically what meal prepping is, if you've never heard about it, it's you basically just get containers and get them lined up on your kitchen counter, and you just make a big bulk meal, and you basically have leftovers all week. But you can have fun with it. When I say it that way and it says leftovers all week, it doesn't really sound like the most enticing thing. But you can really make whatever you want. I got some pictures here. They have potatoes, broccoli, and chicken. And the other one I think is sweet potatoes, Brussels sprouts. If you're not into Brussels sprouts, you can substitute that for literally anything. As long as you're tracking your carbs and what you're putting in. And then normally some sort of grilled meat. A real easy thing to do. Husbands and wives, if you want to get in on this together, husband can go out and grill just for, say, chicken here. If you want to bake the chicken, make it easier if you don't have time to get out and grill. Really whatever. If you want to do some sort of pork, grilled pork, ribs, something like that, literally anything can be put into a meal prep. You just need to, the best thing to do is just kind of keep the serving sizes similar. Say you use 1 cup of broccoli in this, or going back to that scale we were talking about earlier, weighing your meat out, which really, the meat's not going to have carbs in it, but if you want to weigh the sweet potato or weigh your servings to make sure you have the same amount, that's a great way to do that. And you just pop these in the refrigerator. You're at work, put them in the refrigerator at work, pop it in the microwave, you have a meal. It's not necessarily, you're going to be eating the same thing every day, but it's not like you're eating it for every meal. It's a great option to have for lunch, so you don't have to go through a drive-through line and sit in there, and then you're eating this high-carb meal that you had to pay all this money for. This is not only saving you money, but it's also giving you a great low-carb option for lunch. All right, and now we're going to go into some recipes that you can make for yourself at home. We've kind of went through and just got some snapshots of some of the some low-carb recipes that we found that we thought you guys might like. And we also are going to send a PDF document along with this video that where you can go in and see all these recipes, and we've got them laid out with the ingredients and everything and the amounts of carbs in them.
So we're going to start out with some breakfast recipes. These are the egg muffins. They are 3 grams of carbs per one muffin, which is a great option for breakfast because you can have 2, 3, however many you'd like because they're not that many. You can also put in either like bacon or sausage in with these, and they are delicious. Me and Brock actually have both had these, and we love them. We usually do it. You can also freeze these and eat them like during the week, so you can meal prep these for breakfast if you want to. Just eat you a couple one morning and then freeze the rest and warm them up as each day goes by. So our next option is the bacon and egg cups. These are kind of similar to the last slide with the egg muffins. If you don't like your eggs over light, you can scramble them and they'll be just as delicious. They are 7 grams of carbs per 1 cup, so make sure just to limit how many you eat on those just because they're a little bit higher in carbs.
Up next, we have the breakfast quesadillas, and up there in parentheses it says 8 grams of carbs per 1 wedge. We all know, I'll be honest, if I eat these, which I do want to try them, they look great. I'm probably not just going to eat 1 wedge. I'm going to eat half the quesadilla, or the whole quesadilla folded in half. And down there at the bottom it says cut each quesadilla into 3 wedges. So if you just take 8, multiply it by 3, if you eat the whole quesadilla, it'll only be 24 grams of carbs, and that'll keep you well within your goal of 43 per meal. And you'll actually have some left over to maybe splurge a little bit on another meal. These are actually fairly easy to make. Like it says, it just follows the recipe there. It does have turkey bacon in the recipe. That's not mandatory that you use that. Feel free to use whatever you would like. If you want to use regular sugar-free bacon, or sausage, hamburger meat, any of these options will work great. Just make sure you're keeping your carbs. You're keeping a check on your carbs if you're changing ingredients. Make sure you're not adding a lot more carbs than the original ingredient would have. But feel free to get flexible with any of these recipes. These aren't recipes that are going to mess up like baking a cake. If you change one little ingredient, it's not going to make your cake flop or anything like that. These are very flexible recipes that you can use and change up however you would like. This next recipe I have here isn't necessarily a recipe at all. This is more, kind of goes off of how you shop. So this is just a regular old breakfast, eggs, bacon, toast. If you use the keto bread and eggs and bacon here, and if you want to put the sugar-free jelly on your toast, it's just this whole breakfast up here on this plate with the jelly on the toast will end up being about 17 grams of carbs. And this just goes to show that you don't necessarily have to constrict yourself to taking this long drawn out recipe to eat right. As long as you use the right ingredients and you keep track of your carbohydrates, you can eat fairly normal and stay within your goals for your carbs per day. All right, following the trend of simple, this is another option. Carly's got all her nice fancy recipes on here, but I just wanted to kind of go in and give y'all a quick option to. It doesn't always have to have that much thought put into it, just like that last breakfast recipe I was talking about. This is ham sandwich and pork rinds. If you'll just use that keto bread we've been talking about the whole time, and if you get a different type of keto bread, just make sure you're tracking your carbs with that as well. Cheese doesn't have any carbs. The deli ham, I think it was honey ham, the one I actually looked up. If you want to just pay attention to the carbs in there and just keep just keep track of them. We've been talking about that the whole time. Just flip the package over for whatever you get, and it'll tell you, you can keep track of it and keep track with how many you have left in a day. I do have the pork rinds down here. You may not be a pork rinds person, but if you've never looked into it, there's so many different flavors and options with pork rinds, and they actually provide you with a zero carb option to something like potato chips. Pork rinds aren't something that you can necessarily just sit down and eat like potato chips. I understand that. They're easy to get burnt out on, but it gives you an option if you want that crunch, just like that potato chip. I do have a note down here at the bottom. When you're choosing your flavors of your pork rinds, be sure to look at the nutrition facts on every flavor you get, because you may get like a barbecue flavor or something sweet that ends up having sugar added in the seasoning. That's just something to keep track of. But for the most part, most of your flavors are going to have 1 to 3 carbs maybe per the entire bag or serving. So just pay attention to that.
So this is one of my go-to options that I love to make. This is just tacos. You can make it with beef, chicken, or steak. It's an easy meal prepping idea. If you use the tortillas I have at the bottom, if you eat 3 of those, that's still less than 30 grams of carbs. Whichever meat you choose to make with them, it's no carbs for meat. So you just got to total in the amount of carbs from the seasoning pretty much, and all the toppings that you get. But this is super simple, super easy, and delicious at the same time. Another lunch recipe is the cheesy onion chicken skillet. It's 4 grams of carbs per 1 1/4 cup. This would also be good on tortillas, kind of like the tacos we talked about earlier. And this would be a great meal prepping idea as well.
Up next, we have the stuffed bell peppers. These are really easy to make. I've actually had them and made them before. They're great for the whole family. You can get you a bunch of peppers, put them in a dish, put it all together. It doesn't take a whole lot of dishes to make these, and they're real simple. They're great warmed up. If you want to microwave them the next day, just throw them in a container. Goes back to the meal prepping thing. If you want to do these for meal prep, this also ends up being a good option. You can just, to make them warm up faster, if you are going to microwave them though, you can just split them right down the middle and lay them open in the container, and it'll warm up faster, so you don't have to sit there forever. And just like all the other recipes, you can change up whatever meat you want to use in them, because the meat's not going to vary that much with the carbs. Just make sure you're keeping track of everything like we've been talking about the whole time. And I think you'll really enjoy these if you've never had them before.
Up next, we have our dinner recipes. First, we have the chicken and zucchini casserole. It is 10 grams of carbs per 1 1/2 cup serving, and the best way to measure that out is using a measuring cup and just scooping the amount of servings out that you plan to eat, and that way you'll be able to calculate the amount of carbs that you're eating for supper.
Up next, we have our keto crock pot chili. This is a great thing to put on a weekend or even a weekday, and you can make a big old pot of it and eat it again and again. It's got 13 grams of carbs in each cup. That means you can eat a few cups if you're hungry and still stay under your carbs per meal. It just like we've talked about with everything else, you can use whatever kind of meat. If you're a deer hunter, you have deer meat, throw it in there, use this, save money. It's a cheap and easy way to get the whole family fed and not have to do a whole prep and time into it. You can just put this in, throw everything in, let it simmer for a few hours on low, and you got a great meal when you're ready to eat.
Another recipe that we have is the butternut squash lasagna. It is no noodles required, and it's 30 grams of carbs in 1 serving. So like Brock had said earlier, if you have a rectangular or square casserole dish, just divide it up in, I believe it's probably about 8 servings, and 1 serving of that would be 30 grams of carbs. But this is an easy substitute with no noodles required.
And following my trend, my recipes that I picked, this is just one example of simple is better. I've actually got a breakdown of carbs and price with this going through. Sometimes you don't have time to follow a recipe and do a meal like this. Sometimes you can just get you a can of low sodium green beans, a sweet potato, toss a sweet potato in the microwave, put you some butter on it, and either air fry or grill some chicken drumsticks or chicken thighs or something like that. And you can use the sugar-free barbecue sauce. It still has carbs in it, but it's a great option in a pinch to just have a good home-cooked meal that you don't have to have a whole lot of time in. And it actually ends up being way cheaper than anything else that you could go to the restaurant and get, and it tastes better and you can put your own spin on it. Going into some low carb snack recipes here. This is a fun and easy way to make your own beef jerky, because if you've ever bought beef jerky in the store, you'll have a little bitty bag and you'll end up being like $15, and you'll say, why did I just buy that? And it's really easy to make at home. Just follow the recipe here. I actually have a tip at the bottom to freeze the beef for 30 to 40 minutes so you can get good thin slices, and always make sure that you cut against the grain of the meat. It'll make for a more tender jerky. You won't be sitting there chewing it for days and days trying to get it chewed up. But this Dale's marinade is a great option to use to season it and let it marinate in. The low sodium option is good though, because it can get salty, not from a health standpoint really, but from a taste standpoint. The regular one can be a bit salty, and you can use whatever seasonings you want to. I like to put some Cajun seasoning on mine, but if you have a barbecue rub or something that you would like to use instead, that's a great option. Feel free to make it your own and season it however you like.
Another great snack idea is the zucchini pizza bites. If you're a pizza lover like me, this is a super simple substitute to fulfill your pizza craving needs, but it's less carbs. And for 5 bites, it's less than 5 grams of carbs. So if you do the math, you can eat a good bit and fulfill your appetite. And we have listed here just a few good snack ideas. If you look underneath each picture, we have the amount of carbs per serving. So when you go to the store, just look for these options, or just look at the nutrition facts label on the back of each snack that you're thinking about getting, and make sure that they're not that high in carbs.
All right, going into the what to drink, you can eat perfect all day long and stay low on carbs, but you can really get into a bad situation and put your carbs out of control with drinks. There's people that I know, my dad actually quit drinking sodas and started drinking zero sodas and dropped his A1C almost a whole percent. So this is a real thing for diabetic patients to watch and to keep track of, because it's a hidden thing that you don't think about when you're drinking. But I do have here the sweet tea. Everybody loves sweet tea. I love sweet tea, and it's easy to just, when you're at home, keep filling up that cup and not thinking about how much you're drinking. But in one serving of regular Milo sweet tea, there's actually 27 grams of carbs. So if you look at the low-calorie option or Splenda option, basically is what this is. This Milo's on the bottom. It only has 1 gram of carbs. And your favorite sports drinks, Gatorade, Powerade, they're full of carbs as well. But luckily, both brands have a zero-carb option. And that's listed down there at the bottom. Just make sure you're looking at it when you pick them up and you're getting the right one. Coke, for example, 39 grams of carbs. That's almost 1 serving amount of food that you're allotted to, 1 amount of carbs for your food without even eating anything. And you've just drank 39 grams of carbs with that. Also, Red Bull. We got a little disclaimer at the bottom. We don't necessarily recommend you drinking energy drinks, but if you do, the low carb, zero sugar option is definitely the better option. Going into things that are the ideal option, we've got water. That's our ideal option to drink. It doesn't have any carbs in it. It actually keeps you hydrated, helps protect your kidneys, does all these great things. The recommended amount of water to drink a day is about 8 cups. If you want to drink more than that, always try to drink at least that much. Don't just go drinking a gallon of water in an hour. That's not good. But definitely the best option if you're going to a restaurant. It's cheaper. It may not be that grandma's sweet tea, and you can have that glass of grandma's sweet tea every now and then if you want to, but you don't need to make that a daily habit. The best thing to do is drink water for most of the time, and if you want to splurge and have a nice meal or something to that effect, have you a glass of sweet tea. And another thing to remember is, throughout all of this, if you mess up, you eat that piece of cake, you eat those cupcakes, you drink that regular Coke, that's fine. just the next day, don't make it a habit and just fall into that rut of just over and over and over. You say, well, I messed up now. I can't do anything about it. You just got to get back on the wagon the next morning, eat right, and stay on track with your carbs and tracking them, and you'll end up having better glycemic control than you have ever had. Thank you guys for tuning in today, and we hope you got something out of the presentation. In the attached PDF that should be along with this video, there is a whole front page of tips and tricks, and it's most of the things that we've went through throughout this PowerPoint. If you have any questions on it, feel free to reach out to your health coach, and they'll be glad to point you in the right direction or get you in touch with someone that can answer any of your questions about how to control your blood sugar better and how to cook at home to get those results.
And thank y'all for listening. We hope y'all enjoyed it.